guest tonight is Ashlyn Alessi. Ashlyn is a 2015 graduate of Albright's fashion program. She currently is a store manager for Tommy Bahama. Part-time, she is a stylist for feature films on Amazon Prime, Netflix, and the Hallmark Channel, which is very exciting. She's also building her own brand titled The Not So Average Girl. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Ashlyn. Ashlyn, it's all yours.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much for popping in today for our first virtual fashion event of the semester. Like Doreen said, my name is Ashlyn. I graduated in 2015 from Albright College. I was a fashion design and merchandising major when I was there, so I had a little bit of taste of both. While I was in Albright, I was part of Club Vogue. I wrote an article for the Fashion Lion. I was in cheerleading. I was part of 80 Pies. So I kind of just had a really well-rounded experience while I was at Albright. But I guess we don't really have to go into too much of that. So I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through what I do, kind of how I got to where I am, maybe some tips and tricks. And then, like Doreen said, we're going to open it up for questions at the end. These are a couple links to my websites. If you want to connect with me, I'm going to put them again at the end so we can stay connected and networking. So as Doreen said, right now I'm a full-time retail manager for Tommy Bahama. I'm a store manager for our Westchester location, which is located in White Plains, New York. When I'm not working at my store, I'm working on film sets, TV shows, feature films, shorts, you name it. There's a lot going on where I live in the Hudson Valley in New York. And then I'm also trying to build my own brand called Not So Average Girl. That's still a work in progress, so I can kind of share with you where I'm at so far, but that is still to be determined. So if I do come back in the spring, maybe I can share more about that at that point in time. So I'm going to start with retail and with Tommy Bahama. So just a little bit about what I do. I think there's sometimes a misconception when it comes to retail managers, and I know personally it wasn't my first pick when I graduated. I wanted to be a fashion buyer, but unfortunately becoming a fashion buyer requires retail experience, and I had 0 years of experience. So I became a store manager first to kind of build up those years, and that's where I am at right now. So I do new store openings, I recruit and staff for my location, I develop my team and my managers, I plan events, I do marketing, I facilitate corporate walkthroughs and visits. My team's flying from Seattle to visit me, so I'm very lucky that they make that trip to connect with me and see how we're doing. I'm in charge of visual merchandising, allocations, store operations, sales management, payroll, a whole bunch of things. And what I'm hoping to do after all of this is I've changed my mind. I don't want to be a buyer anymore. I want to run my own Marlin bar, or become a district manager, or move into a retail corporate role. But I will get more into that in a little bit. So I guess just a little bit more background into this, because these are all just quick bullet points. I've been able to travel to 4 different states for my company to hire people and to train them and to get them onboarded with Tommy Bahama. I've been to Boston, Jersey, Connecticut, all kind of in the New England area. So that's been super fun. And one of my favorite parts of the job is the whole recruiting and onboarding process. I've gotten to set up influencer partnerships for my store. So just actually last month, I scoured Instagram and found this influencer she was a smaller one. I think she had 20K followers. We invited her in, she did a fit session, got some free stuff. And then in turn, we got to promote our store and our business. I've got to meet the head of design for Tommy Bahama, merchandising managers, the senior VP of retail. I actually have a pretty small store. We're a volume of 1.3 mil. So compared to other locations, we're tiny. But he loves us and he loves what we do, and we actually get to see him multiple times a year, which is super rewarding to me and my team. And then what I was talking about at the bottom, where I said next step is maybe a Marlin bar for me. We're not only a retail store, we also have restaurants and bars, so it's kind of like the full experience. If any of you guys ever go to Fifth Ave, I don't know what age you are, but cocktails, appetizers, or desserts on me. You will love it. It's all attached, the restaurant, store, and bar. And that's kind of where I'm hoping to move into next, to be able to oversee the whole entire thing. So I have like little clips and pics of here of like restaurant foods, of my store team, visuals. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of fun to kind of see some stuff that we have going on at the store. During certain events, up at the top left, we cater in food and drinks from our restaurant because my location specifically doesn't have the restaurant. We have live music in the store, and it's just like tons of fun. I worked at Abercrombie before Tommy Bahama, and it's just a completely different experience of how they let us run our business in this specific location. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of move on to how I got to this specific job. So I started with the MIT program at Abercrombie & Fitch. This was that job that I accepted to get my retail years to become a buyer, which I don't even want to do anymore. But the MIT program was awesome because it broke it down into different areas of the business per week. And once I completed that program, I was able to immediately promote into an assistant manager position, even though this was my first taste of retail. If I'm being honest, I did a seasonal position at Forever 21 while I was in college, but I don't know if I even got 40 hours the whole summer. So the MIT program broke down by week. So maybe one week we were talking about sales, one week we were talking about people, one week I was focusing on visual, one week I was focusing on stockroom setup, one week I was focusing on loss prevention. So it really let me dig into each area of the business. And that's kind of how I found what I like and what I don't like about retail and what I kind of want to pursue long term when it comes to moving into a corporate retail role. So that's kind of how I got there. I only spent there a year, and then I was actually recruited on LinkedIn to work at Tommy Bahama. So I made that move after a year, and it's just been up since. So I think something that I'm going to stress throughout this whole presentation is the importance of networking and kind of like a social media presence. And I would definitely start on LinkedIn and build up your brand there, because that's how all the magic's going to happen. So if it wasn't for me being on LinkedIn, putting myself out there, having a strong profile and networking, I would have never made the switch to Tommy Bahama. I didn't even know what Tommy Bahama was before she contacted me. So super important. What else? I started at Tommy Bahama as an assistant store manager. I was an ASM for a year before I got promoted to store manager. And that was all done through really driving sales into the store, having really strong operations, being able to staff the store, those types of things. So what really stood out for me was my recruiting. I said that earlier, it's what I'm super passionate about. And like I also said, I'm a tiny baby store. So we typically have about 4 managers just for our 1.3 mil store. And then one time after the VP came to my store, he was just super impressed with the way things were running, and he gave me permission to recruit a team as large as our flagship location in New York City. And then I would just train these managers, and then they would go wherever they wanted to go from there. So really driving results and focusing in on what you're strong at and going from there. And I think it's also super important to be open to new experiences and running different aspects of the business. Like I said, when I started, I just wanted to tack on the years and eventually dip and become a fashion buyer. But because I was open to being a recruiting manager for the district, or because I'm open to being a Marlin Bar manager, my opportunities just keep blossoming right in front of me, for lack of better words. And don't be afraid to take risks either. When you're in retail, there's a lot of standards about, you know, what you need to follow, what the document says, what the corporate direction is. But by taking risks and kind of being creative and outside the box, I think that's kind of a cool way to get noticed. So I think that's really it with that. At this time, I've staffed over 50 people and traveled all over the district to develop them. And it's not where I expected to be at all, but I really love where I'm at right now. And I'll also get into this later, but if it wasn't for how flexible this job was, I wouldn't be able to pursue my part-time film styling. So if anybody has anything like questions, concerns, maybe misconceptions about the retail business, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions because I actually love it now that I'm doing it.
Ashlyn, we do have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned that it was important for you to be on LinkedIn and
Uh-huh.
that you were recruited from there. What do you think it was about your LinkedIn presence that identified you to people and enabled you to be recruited by Tommy Bahama?
Okay, yeah, so now that I'm actually on the recruiter side, I have access to see a bunch of things that maybe you won't see having regular LinkedIn profiles. So I think the first thing you guys want to do, especially if you're about to be a graduate or maybe you just graduated, LinkedIn has all these special flags you could put on your page. So one of them being like open to work, sharing where you'd be open to work, what positions you're looking for. That's the first step, because the first thing I do when I'm recruiting is I click a filter that says show me all profiles that are open to work. And if you don't have that on your page, I'm gonna not see you, unfortunately. And then I think it's also important and the way you portray your resume there. So, for example, a position like store manager, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I open and close the registers, I do visuals and I dress mannequins. Like that's all stuff that you guys probably know, everybody knows that's what a store manager does. And I don't think that really makes you stand out as a store manager candidate. So I would list things that you've personally done to help grow the business or something that you've personally contributed to, because that's what your next company is going to look for, what makes you stand out. So I can show you guys my page later, but instead of listing those basic things that you would see on any old job description, I'm putting in there that I personally staffed and recruited 50 people and trained and onboard them. I'm putting in there that I was personally given permission from our senior vice president of retail to onboard additional managers or whatnot, things that you personally do that make you stand out. And that really goes back to your resume building too. You should have that on both your LinkedIn and your resume. I think photos are important. A lot of people say that, looks don't have anything to do with getting a job, or you want to hide that because you don't want any misconceptions. But from talking to others in my district and our corporate recruiters, they do kind of scroll past the pages without a picture. So make sure it's professional, make sure it's not a selfie. Nice bright lighting, nice breezy smile. You want somebody to click on your page. So your title too, that's super important because that is the first thing I see before I click on your profile. So maybe instead of student at Albright College, maybe you're the editor for Fashion Lion, or you're the vice president of Club Vogue. Like, beef it up. You're doing awesome things even at a college level. Don't sell yourself short on your LinkedIn profile. I hope that answers your question fully, but if not, chat us again. I can't see it right now because I'm screen sharing. Okay. So next I'm going to move on to what I do as a freelance film stylist. And there's a lot going on here because there's a whole bunch of different positions in the fashion film world. So they have buyers, they have set dressers, they have wardrobe, they have designers, wardrobe supervisor, tailors, costumers, costumer PAs, wardrobe PAs. So there's a whole bunch of different positions that you could get into in the film industry. So for example, a costume designer is who creates the feel of, the wardrobe. They host the fittings with the main cast. Versus if you were a set costumer, you're just there on set watching things as it's being filmed. So if your actor had two cuffs here before you guys took lunch break or the day before, you need to know the next day when you're dressing that actor, you got to have the two cuffs going again for continuity on the screen. And that's just a set costumer. That's their sole job, is just to watch out for those kinds of things. Then we have wardrobe supervisors who manages the whole entire team and make sure things are running smoothly. So you're in charge of those set dressers or the PAs and making sure everything's happening the way it needs to. And those are just some examples. So in my little bullet points here, I've worked a bunch of those positions, not just necessarily one. So I've been involved in the pre-production, the production, and the post-production of films. So in the pre-production stage, you're kind of doing what you do in some of your fashion projects at school. You're creating those inspiration and mood boards for the film. And that's how you're going to shop and buy for all of your scenes based on your inspo board. Or maybe you're not the shopper because the designer is not the shopper. Those are two different roles. So maybe you're creating the looks, you're the designer, and you're just passing that off to somebody to go buy the stuff. So you need to make sure that that's super accurate and, I don't know, speaks in a way that the shopper is going to understand your story in the background and what feel you're trying to create in the film. So that would kind of be my next bullet point, budgeting and shopping for wardrobe pieces. So I've done that as well. Some have been mini budgets, some have been bigger budgets. It really depends on the type of film and what your designer is telling you that they need. One of my friends, Shannon, who's also an alumni of Albright College, she actually is an awesome designer and she can sew everything from scratch. And she's actually made me a couple pieces to put in film and she's gotten her name in credits because of that. And thank you to her. So it's not always just going out there and buying. Sometimes you're having to make it yourself. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I wish I took more classes in garment construction. So I need to kind of outsource for that. I can't do it on my own. Alrighty, so once you have all your pieces, there's a separate job for people who are just planning and prepping the outfits by scene and character. So the scripts are sometimes this big and you got to break that down scene by scene, day by day, and character for every day, and kind of just sort that and plan that. Who's wearing what each day? When do we change for scenes? Do you have a jacket for when your character goes from inside to outside? Like just little details like that, and make sure you're prepping that. And some scenes take a whole week to shoot. So you need to be able to plan too, to like get that washed and laundered, and maybe you have to tailor things on the spot. I think I'm kind of moving into my next bullet point while I'm saying that. So fittings, alterations, tailoring, sometimes it has to be done on the spot. I carry a little sewing kit around with me. My sewing machine is always in the trunk of my car because you just really never know what's gonna happen. And then a trick that I've learned along the way is sometimes if something is gonna be in an important scene and maybe you're gonna be filming it for 7 days, buy two, because if your actor's spilling stuff all over themselves on lunch break, you don't have time to deal with that. So just like little things like that happen while you're on set. So set dressing, like I already mentioned, touch-ups between scenes. That could be the buttons, the cuffs. I don't know, maybe you need to get a wrinkle out really quick. I got fashion tape with me at all times. And that's pretty much everything that goes into the styling. And then for post-production, sometimes when things are hitting the cutting room floor and they're looking back at takes that maybe didn't come out the way that they thought, you need to have your wardrobe ready to go to refilm at any given time. If they're putting together the film and they're like, ooh, this scene's just not gonna cut it, we're refilming. Yeah, I have to have all my stuff ready to go again. So it doesn't end just when they wrap. And then besides from film styling, I also do still photography on sets for continuity. That's sometimes for my own sake to make sure outfits are coming out the same daily so I can remember what bracelets they're wearing, jewelry or whatever. But I also do it for the set as a whole. So it helps out the props team. It helps out the cameraman when we're framing things out. So I've helped with that. And then I've also helped out as a graphic assistant and social media manager for some of the films that I've been on. So like I said, there's 1,000 jobs in the film industry, and I've kind of worked my way through doing a little bit of everything because you just never know. Like when I was a graphic assistant, there was just a couple actors reading books, and they were copyrighted, obviously, and this film was kind of low budget and they didn't get permission to use these books, I guess, on film. So I just had to make fake book covers, and now it's in a film. So you just never know like what they're gonna need you for. So if you could be open and adapting, more film credits for you. And I have a couple shots here of some of the film sets I've been on. And I'm just gonna start off, before I say how I got here, I'm gonna start off with a story that I don't really tell anybody of how I got here. So I don't know if Facebook's really a thing with y'all anymore, but Facebook has groups for everything. So to get my very, very first film job, I literally went on Facebook groups and I typed in like films in Hudson Valley or something, and all these groups popped up and I joined them all. So I started by just being an extra on films, and then through these Facebook groups I was able to become a stylist. So in the top left corner where this alien looking man is, that was my first film ever. It was a student film, and I posted in this one group and I was like, I want to become a film stylist. Somebody, like, does anybody have something I could be a PA on? Anything I can help with? Like, I just want to get my foot in the door. And this student, you can't see her, she's the blonde one that's facing away from the photo, but she private messaged me off of that post and was like, I have a box of fabric. I need aliens. I can't pay you. I can't buy any more supplies. Can you do something? And she dropped off like these rags to me. And I kind of just had to work with it. So I don't really show those pictures to anybody now because they do look a little silly, but that's how I got started, y'all, because a student reached out to me and was like, please do this. But it got me my first film credit. And then I was able to move from there. So I guess I'll continue that story in the next slide, but these are just a few stills from my most recent. So off of that same post, a director messaged me and was like, last night I was just thinking that I don't know much about women's wardrobe at all, and I'm gonna need some help. And I saw your post and I just think it was meant to be. And in my head, I was like, I think it's meant to be too. So that was how I got my first paid stylist role, guys. I posted on Facebook asking if anybody needed help, and I just put myself out there and I put my resume on the page. So Facebook, out of all things. So, but before I even got to that, before I even got my first film styling job, before I even knew I wanted to do that, I started out as a background and a day player in films. So if you're watching, I don't know, a show where the main actor goes to prom, I was dancing in the background at prom. Or if they're going to school, I'm walking by them while they're at their locker, or just like silly things like that. I'm at a party with the actor. That's how I started, because I had no idea how else to get my foot in the door. So while I was on set, I brought my business cards with me, and I was just networking with everybody, and especially with the wardrobe team. I was just not even pushy at first, just seeing what their responsibilities were, how they got where they were, things like that, and kind of just feeling them out. And some of them who were really receptive to me, I would pass off my info and go from there. So a lot of these roles were either paid or unpaid, and they were just day things. So it's not like I was there weeks and weeks filming this one particular project, but it did help me grow my network and get connected with people who were already in the industry doing what I wanted to do. And then after that, the networking paid off. I got hired as a PA on set, and not even a wardrobe PA, just a production assistant. So I was driving actors to and from different locations, getting them supplies if they needed it, simply just to learn how the film set works as a crew member. Because as a background, they kind of shove you in a room all day and you just sit there waiting for them to call you to screen. Here, I was mingling with the cast and crew and kind of seeing everything that went into filming a TV show or a movie. I put networking in big capital letters here, guys. It's self-explanatory, I think, after everything I just said. And then I booked my first wardrobe job, also unpaid, as that alien costumer out of scraps of fabric. but then it helped me start to build my portfolio, get those connections, and build upon my IMBD credits. And now I book paid jobs mainly by referrals. So it wasn't like some glamorous, like easy way to get to the top. I started doing things that I didn't really want to do, or things that I didn't even get paid for, just to get those networks and those connections to kind of be where I wanted to be. So my most recent film, it's called Skipping Stones. I actually booked that through a makeup artist named Rhiannon, who was filling in for one day on this was a film that I was the wardrobe supervisor for, and she referred me when she started up a new production. And that's been my most successful film to date. We just signed a distribution deal and we're moving the film into the American film market this week. So hopefully it gets bought out by somebody, fingers crossed. But again, it all goes back to networking. I think that's it for this. So I just threw in some other photos here of me flying around sets. Some of these I was background for, some of these I even had speaking roles for. It's funny how things like that work out. I don't necessarily want to be an actress, but just from being there and building that network, it's happened. I've been in Then Came You with Maisie Williams. She's from Game of Thrones. I've been in The Outcast with Victoria Justice. I'm sure you guys know who she is, but she was victorious on Nickelodeon, just for reference. Justin Brewing on Last Vermont Christmas. I think he's from Grey's Anatomy. I've never watched it, but my friends were in love with him. I didn't even know who he was that day. My friends were like, oh my God, Justin Brewing. I was like, I don't know him. The Brawler with Zach McGowan, he was on The 100 and Walking Dead, I'm pretty sure. So I met some really cool people, and now my work is on Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hallmark, maybe Hulu. I don't know, it's all over the place. And the film that I just most recently wrapped is in a bunch of film festivals. I have all of their like little accolades at the top there. There's more, but that one's still a work in progress. We just wrapped that one in August. Okay, and then finally, this is still a work in progress, guys, but I'm trying to found my own company called Not So Average Girls. So I'm in it by myself, so I'm doing a little bit of everything. I've been designing and sending in artwork for production. I have to manage my own website and social media campaigns, going through inventory management, expenses, profits, losses. And eventually I'm going to try to set up maybe some kind of brand ambassador program. I have to set up client outreach and all these different things. So I started this company based on like, I don't know, I want to kind of be my own boss. And I feel like there's a lot of times in life where you might feel like a rejection or a setback, or you maybe like doubt your self-worth, or maybe you're disappointed about something. I know coming right out of college, like I felt a lot of those things. I didn't have my first job for a couple months out, and it was like really easy to lose motivation. Or even now, sometimes I'm working full time and I still feel like I'm not doing enough. So I wanted to start a brand that makes girls feel empowered, motivated, and conscious of their self-worth. And I plan on doing that through like graphics and inspirational images to kind of push people through their day. While I was at Albright, I almost became a psych minor by accident because I just kept taking it as my electives because I loved it. And there you kind of learn, like, if you guys smile right now and just keep smiling for like 5 minutes, things will release in your brain that just make you happy. So it's science. So I think building up a brand like this, where you're just constantly reminded about, you know, that you are enough, you matter, and things like that, scientifically, it should boost your motivation, make you happy, and things like that. So that's kind of where I'm heading with this. I still have a long ways to go. Some of the pictures at the bottom here are just mock-ups of things that I've tried. But like I said, it's still a work in progress. So I just thought it kind of made sense because it encompasses all of the experience that I've built up over the years. Being both a store manager and a graphic designer, I could kind of twirl those things into one here. And I actually, again, this goes back to networking. I met someone who successfully runs her own online boutique. She has thousands of followers and she's always selling out. So I connected with her and she actually mentored me through the process of becoming business certified and like getting your tax IDs and stuff like that. She mentored me through website building, reselling, bulk buying, and all those types of things that go into running a business. So I honestly was inspired by her, and that's how I got started. I was like, I think I can do this too. So that's kind of how I got here. Through store management experience, I'm very familiar with selling best practices, trends, inventory markdowns, marketing, guest caption, all those types of things. So that's going to kind of come easy to me when it comes to moving into my own business. While I was at Albright, I had an internship at GK Elite Sportswear. It's right up the road if you guys haven't been up there yet. I know we used to do like tours up there and things like that. And I was a production designer for them over the summer. And then they actually offered me a part-time position while I was still going to school. So I got a lot of experience doing that. I put an example at the bottom of something that I worked on while I was there. I also became a freelance graphic designer for a sorority shop. I think they're actually also located in Reading, PA, but I got the job when I moved back home to New York and I was just doing it remotely, which was pretty cool. An online home brand called Is Our Home hired me to design some things for them. So I'm doing all of this. I'm managing my own store, Tommy Bahama. I'm doing all this graphic design for other people. And I'm like, why don't I just do it for myself? So that's kind of how I got started here. Again, I have network in big bold letters because that's the most important thing that I can keep stressing to you guys. Because I found that boutique mentor, I was able to get my certificate of authority and all these things that I would have been clueless on prior. But I think that's really it. When it comes to building this brand, I have to say it is a lot of hard work. It's not as easy as I thought it would be. Like I watched her, my mentor, and she just did it so easy. It looked like it came so easy to her. And now that I'm doing it, it's a lot of hard work. It comes at a cost. I've wasted a decent amount of money for things that didn't come out of production the way that I had planned and things like that. So hopefully I can come back in the spring and speak to this business a little bit more, but right now I'm kind of still building it up, and some things, I am learning as I go. But that's kind of it. Those are the 3 things I'm doing right now and kind of how I got to each of them. Here's all my contact info if you guys want to talk to me about anything. The first one is my Tommy Bahama email if you want any store or restaurant opportunities. I am recruiting for the entire New England. I put in my costume PA, my freelancing email, Ashlyn.graphics. Film productions are shut down right now, but once they start going again, I'm always looking for costume PAs to help me out on set. And then that's my website info when I actually get the company up and running. So I'll stop there and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Ashlyn. It's amazing what you've done since you've graduated from Albright. I thought when you were here that you were multitasking in a lot of different directions, and I see that that has continued. But
Yeah.
congratulations on the successes that you've had.
Thank
There
you
are
so
some
much.
questions that are being asked, and they're really being asked about what you did at Albright. So the first question is, why did you choose design and merchandising over just the merchandising major or just the design major?
Honestly, when I was heading into college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet. I just knew I wanted to get into fashion. And I think that that's the thing about fashion. Once you have that degree, you can literally do anything. You could be that store manager, you could be a film stylist, you can do runway shows, you could design. Like there's so many options out there. Buying, what I wanted to be as a buyer. So I went into both just so I could kind of explore both areas of fashion and kind of see what I was strongest in, what really called to me. And I think it was super helpful to do both because I've found now that I intertwine the two a lot. Like, sure, I'm running a retail store right now, so you would think, okay, the merchandising major was really important for you to move into that role. But when I'm partnering with my influencers and I'm making graphics for my in-store events and things like that, I see it all weaving in there and tying in. And then it's just allowed me to, I guess, expand into more areas of fashion doing both.
So the next question was, why did you choose merchandising over design, if you were choosing between the two? And I think that relates to your working for Tommy Bahama, which is merchandising.
Mm-hmm. Um, Honestly, I loved my time at GK and I really liked working there, but I don't know. I felt like it was getting repetitive for me. I was sitting at the same desk every day, doing the same types of flats every day. And I was like, you know what? Like, I love working here. I used to be a cheerleader. I used to do gymnastics. It all clicked, but for some reason, it just, I don't know. Wasn't feeling inspired or anything there. I felt like I had to go do something more. And I think that's why I was like, okay, forget the design. I'm going to be a fashion buyer. And then that's how I got into retail. But I think now I'm sticking with retail because every day is something different. And that's what I was trying to stress earlier on in the presentation. I'm just not sitting at my store every day selling stuff to customers. I'm traveling to other states, training and developing people. I am planning events for my store. I'm catering in food from the restaurant. I'm doing all these different things. So I like that fast-paced environment that has a challenge, every single day. So I think that's kind of why I'm sticking with it where I am right now. I really enjoy doing those kinds of things.
Um, and also, there's a student here that wants to know more about Albright. So what was your experience like at Albright, and how prepared did you feel when you entered the work world?
Sure. So I had an awesome Albright experience. I would do it 10,000 times over if I could. I still can't believe it's already been 5 years. While I was at Albright, I tried to get involved in everything that I could, because I think it's important to know that while you're there, yes, you want to focus on fashion. You want to join all the fashion clubs. You want to build up on your design experience if that's what you want to do, or you want to build up on your merchandising experience if that's what you want to do. However, you also need to think about skills that are going to translate into any type of job you do. So taking up a leadership opportunity, wherever it is. Mine was in AD or going somewhere where you're going to have to present and speak and just like put yourself out there. So I was also a tutor manager. So I was managing a team while I was still going to school. I had a lot of tutors. I had maybe 30, 35 in my, I think I was humanities and social sciences. So I had a bunch of different people that I was managing. We were planning events for. I was really learning how to manage people, communicate with people, which kind of translated into the management role I'm in now. So I think Albright offers you so many different experiences, and you just really need to try them all, even if you maybe don't think that that's what you want to do. And something that I'm always going to remember that stands out to me is you organized a trip to New York City with the Boscov's buyers, and I was the only one sitting on that bus. So um, the president of Boscov's got on the bus and sat down next to me. I was the only student there, and he was like, you're the only one here. I really appreciate you showing up, all this stuff. And then he let me choose what I wanted to do all day. He said, what area do you love? If you want to try out different areas today while we're in showrooms, just tell me what you want and we're going to make it happen for you because you showed up. So I got to shadow a sportswear buyer for Boscov's all day long. We went to all these amazing showrooms. The showroom managers were buying us lunch and stuff. It was such a fun day. And honestly, that's what made me want to become a buyer. Before that, I didn't even, have a clear understanding of what they did. So again, there's so many experiences out there. Like, guys, just take advantage of it. I can't believe I was the only one on the bus that day. And then in regards to when I entered the work world, I felt pretty prepared. I had a really strong fashion background under my belt, and I also took it upon myself while I was there to use my electives for things that would kind of tie into fashion. So I initially took a psych class because I don't think it was Scott French. It was, I wish I knew his name, Kyle Breadbenner. He gave us a presentation at the Fashion Forum, and he was talking about psychology and buying habits. So I took a psych class because he told me it was important. And then at least when the curriculum when I was there, our fashion illustrations were mainly based on, constructing flats and filling the flats and making mood boards and things like that. So I also signed myself up for some regular graphics design courses as my electives. So I could kind of learn things that you're not necessarily learning in Photoshop and Illustrator as a fashion major. Like, I was a senior at this point, and I was still learning new things in those programs that you don't necessarily always use as a fashion major, and I can kind of intertwine them. So I think that's what I like about it being a liberal arts college too, which is why I didn't pick a place like FIT, because you can really mold your education to exactly what you need and exactly what you're looking for. So when I entered the work world, I felt really good about it. I sat down with the I don't know if it's the ALC anymore, Career and Development Center. I sat down with them with my resume, like, weekly. I was like, look at this draft, look at this draft. What do you think about this draft? And Mie also helped me add some cool touches to my resume that would make me stand out as a design major. My portfolio was checked and critiqued 10 times over before I graduated. So I had the leadership skills, the communication skills, the fashion skills, the outside of fashion skills. My resume was ready to go, and I felt really confident once I graduated.
So taking advantage
Of
of
everything.
of everything there. Yeah. And liberal arts college enables you to do that. When you go to a college like FIT, you are really surrounded in just fashion.
Right.
And at Albright, our students make connections between fashion and psychology, and you network with people outside of the fashion major, which is always helpful too.
Exactly.
So there is a question here. So related to your current job in retail, how has COVID-19 changed your work? And how has Tommy Bahama navigated sales in our new reality? So what's happening at Tommy?
Okay, so I think when we reopened, it was kind of the same across the board in all retail stores. We were all furloughed back in March. And so we kind of came back on a little at a time starting in June. So I was one of the first ones brought back on. I slowly got to bring my whole team back with me. We're all here now, which is awesome. So, the procedures at first were a little overwhelming. We weren't really used to it, especially having a smaller team in the beginning. We have 2 COVID-19 cleaning checklists that we have to go through every single day and sign off on. And when I mean checklists, like, I have this little notebook next to me. It's in small, I don't know if you could see it. It was small print like this that we're checking off every single day. So, sanitizing the fitting room, steaming stuff after every single person tries it on. We're cleaning the door handles, we're cleaning the phones, we're cleaning the cash wrap all day long, like hourly, guys. We are a smaller location, so we really haven't had to limit the amount of guests coming into the store. Other retailers in the mall, I do work in a high-end mall like Gucci, they have lines out the door where they're on a wait list to be checked in because they just can't have that many people in the store. Luckily, we don't have that issue right now. And to be honest, I don't know if you guys know what Tommy Bahama is. I just realized I didn't really talk about it. We're basically resort wear. We carry bathing suits and shorts and aloha shirts all year round, beach chairs. So when we came back in July, people were really missing us. So we have been basing all of our numbers on last year. Normally we get new sales plans every year. That's a percent above last year. Obviously you always want to do better than last year. But when we reopened, they let us know like, hey, we understand the situation. Sales probably aren't going to be the way they were last year. Let's just say if we're at least down 35% or better to LY, then, you know, we're doing what we need to be doing with the current situation. And my first month back with my team, we were only down 5% to LY. And for us, if we get an online return, that's added back to our sales. So if you forget those cheat sales that aren't really sales, we actually did better than last year in August, better than last year in September. October is something else. We're not doing so hot, but I think that's just because we came off season, and I expect that to go up during holiday. But Tommy Bahama has been really good about the whole thing. We have paid COVID sick leave. We temperature check everybody every single day when we come into the store. If you have a temperature above 100, you're going home and you're staying home for 2 weeks unless you can provide a negative COVID test. So they're really on top of everything. And I think despite everything happening, we're still seeing success. And with Tommy Bahama in particular, like I said, we're not just stores, we're also restaurants and bars. And we're continuing to open up new locations amidst this whole pandemic. So we're opening up new locations in Hawaii and Florida within the next couple months. And this is still kind of a secret, but we're working on a Tommy Bahama resort in Hawaii. So we have all these different areas of the business that kind of help us outperform regular brick and mortar retail right now, which I think is on a decline. So I don't know, I'm lucky in that aspect where we're still doing well despite retail crumbling all around me.
So Ashlyn, I have to ask the question, is there a real Tommy Bahama?
No, so I get asked that all the time. Tommy Bahama is a fake person. 3 best friends actually made this brand, and Tommy Bahama was basically like their ideal customer. So I don't know, they chose an age range, or this guy was, I don't know, 40, he likes to golf, whatever, and his name is Tommy Bahama. Like that's just who they modeled their target customer after, but he's not real.
And how do you see this business going forward? I'd like to say post-COVID. What do you see, what changes do you see in the fashion industry in general?
I don't know, that's tough. I feel like we're in such a weird time right now. For us personally, I still see business going up and onwards. And not just for us, but for retailers in general right now, we're really hopping on that stay at home, stay cozy trend, like working from home. So a lot of retailers are shifting to, I don't know, athleisure is super big right now. We launched that earlier than we wanted to just because that's what's going to sell right now. We have a lot of loungewear now, sleepwear, things that you could kind of just bundle up with at home, whether you're taking a class or you're working or whatnot. So I think it's tricky because there aren't as many people shopping in store. If I look at my store's traffic in particular, over those months, I was seeing between 500 and 700 less people per month. So the fact that we were making those numbers was crazy. Like I wasn't expecting it. But us and from other retailers in the area that I've spoken to, we're just trying to adapt and, you know, come out of this strong. So what we've actually just started are virtual shopping appointments. So we book guests over Zoom meetings like we're doing right now. And we're taking our little iPads through the whole store and showing them new styles, maybe new colors of things they've purchased in the past. So they don't even have to leave their house. They're zooming through our store via webcam, picking out what they want. We're shipping it out for free. And then they're still getting that personalized experience that they would have gotten in store by speaking to a real person. I don't know, seeing things up close versus online photos that are maybe sometimes misleading. So I think us and other retailers are just trying to make the most of the situation and keep guests coming to brick and mortar or shopping through brick and mortar, even if they're not physically inside, you know, shopping with us. So it'll be interesting to see how everybody does in the upcoming months. But I think for the most part, retail's adapting and trying to work through it.
It always does. So what are your long range goals? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Where do you want to
Oh
be?
gosh, okay. um, Short term, I do want to move into a corporate position, whether that's being a general manager of a Marlin bar or a DM of retail stores, or moving all the way to Seattle and working in the corporate office. That's kind of my short term. I really love where I work and I love who I work with, and I just want to keep growing and making a difference in the company that I'm in. Eventually, I would like to work in film full time. And right now, I'm really grateful that I can make my own schedule. So if I need to be on a film set for 2 weeks, I have a really strong team there who could just kind of take things over. I have enough vacation days to do what I need to do. So right now, I am grateful for the retail job and film sets too, especially now, but even before COVID, you know, maybe the show you're working on doesn't get renewed for a next season, or you're only working on a movie and those wrap in 3 months and then you have no job. So that's kind of why I'm doing both right now. But I guess maybe my 10-year plan, I don't know. I don't know how many years. But eventually, another purpose of starting my company, Not So Average Girl, was so I could eventually work for myself. So I could still do online boutique sales and things like that, and then take the time I need to be full-time on film sets. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But luckily for now, I have the freedom to make both work.
Okay, we have a few minutes left. Are there any other questions?
I'm just scrolling through it really quickly to see if I missed anything. Did I miss anything, guys? I'm scrolling through the chat, but it looks like we got through it all.
I think so. So there is a new question. How do you find work-life balance? Good question.
That's a really good question. Sometimes I don't, but I mean, I am kind of a strong believer of like, you put in the work now and it'll pay off later. So just my retail job now is very time consuming because I commute an hour both ways there and back. And when COVID wasn't a thing and there was people commuting into the city, I was driving 3 hours round trip every day for work. So it really ate up a lot of my work-life balance. However, like I said, Tommy Bahama is really good to me. I have probably more than a month of vacation a year, so I could take that time to, you know, they call it relax in style. I could take the time to go relax in style outside of my job when I need to. I have really flexible scheduling as well, so I don't even need to use vacation day, and I could take off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday if I'm willing to work that next Tuesday through Saturday. So I still find the time to make things in my life that are important happen, and take the time away from work when I need to. But it is tricky right now, and I think that's also why the company that I'm trying to start is on the back burner, because of everything happening right now. I kind of pushed it on the side for my own sake. There's just a lot going on right now, and I wanted some me time and yeah, that work-life balance that I don't necessarily always get.
So we only have a couple minutes left, Ashlyn. I know that you've given advice throughout this presentation, but do you want to just wind this up by giving some advice to undergraduates and also high school students that are looking for colleges right now? Want to provide some advice?
Yes. Okay. So I guess I'll start with choosing a college. I don't, also, this is a little tricky right now, so I don't know how you could do this for you. Maybe they do Zoom tours or something now, but I actually visited Albright 3 times before I decided that that's where I was going to go. I think it's super important that you're picking a place that kind of checks a little bit of everything off your boxes, that when you're visiting these campuses or doing a virtual Zoom tour or whatever you do at this time, that you're able to connect with the professors, ask the right types of questions. You feel like they're willing to, I don't know, put in the work to make you successful, and you'll get that kind of feeling just by speaking to them. I think I sat in a mock class, I did an overnight, and Albright always just felt right. So do what you need to do, visit that tour 3 times, and make sure you're finding the best fit for you. And like I said, I think liberal arts schools are important, and Albright was super helpful for me because I could fine-tune my education into exactly everything that I wanted out of it. In terms of current students, like I said, really get out there and try everything that you can. Maybe you'll find something that you don't even know that you like doing yet. So like when I started, I only joined Club Vogue. I was like, I don't really care about fashion writing or whatever. And then my friend and I co-wrote an article, and I was hooked, and I was about to graduate. So I was kind of a little upset that I didn't start doing that further. So take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. I know school gets super overwhelming sometimes, and you know, maybe that's why nobody's on the bus to Boscov's. They were tired, they had finals. I don't know what was going on at that time, but really try to take advantage of everything you can. And then when you're about to leave, and of course you guys can email me, I'll look at your resumes or anything that you want, but really take the time to develop your professional profiles, your resume, your portfolio, network. I think on every single slide I had network in big bold letters. At the end of the day, and I've learned this now, being in a recruiting position, if thousands of applications are coming in, you know, sometimes you might have a stellar resume and it just gets lost. So if you can network and have a connection somewhere or with somebody who knows somebody in that company, all it takes is them forwarding your resume to the top of their email box, and it could set you apart from that. So I think networking is super important. I think that's a little bit of everything, right? Picking a college while you're in college when you're about to go to the real world.
Ashlyn, I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And for sure, we will invite you back in the spring. You know we're here for you. We miss having you here on campus, but we're really proud that you've done all that you've done. So, and I want to thank all of our students who joined us here today. And just remind you that we'll have another Discovery event next Wednesday, November 18th. So have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Doreen. I miss you guys.
Bye-bye.